Hey guys, it's Grace. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So today I kind of wanted to talk about something that I'm kind of still going through now. This is going to be a very serious video, so if you don't want to hear kind of graphic details and you don't really want anything too heavy on your minds, I would say to check out some of my other videos, or to stop watching this altogether. But today I wanted to come on and talk about my miscarriage. It's been about a month now, but yeah, it's been kind of hard. I know a lot of people go through it, and I feel like it's kind of taboo to talk about, and I don't know, I just kind of need to like talk through it. So if you're kind of sitting there and still watching, then keep on watching. Kind of let me talk it through to you. Be my ears, please. There's a lot of things that kind of pop up. I actually had to write them down because there's a lot of things that my doctors did that I feel like the other doctors that I went to were kind of like putting a big question mark, like, why? But anyway, so I took a home pregnancy test. I took it in the beginning of November, and it said that I was pregnant. So because I was so early, and last time with Mason, Mason is my son if you don't already know, last time with Mason I didn't get to do all of the like first appointments because I didn't have insurance, so I actually didn't get to do like the first ultrasound. I only did one ultrasound with him, well technically two, but I mean, I didn't get to do a lot of the firsts. I didn't get the first heartbeat. I was really in my second trimester when I actually went to the doctors, the actual doctors, the OBGYN. So anyway, I took my home pregnancy test. As soon as it said that I was pregnant, I wanted to make sure that I got in nice and early, got a confirmation from the doctor to make sure that I was pregnant, because I know sometimes there's a false positive. So I wanted to check that. I know I had a couple of symptoms, like some foods just made me nauseous, eggs made me like, ugh. And I work around eggs a lot, so it was kind of horrible for the first week. And mayo, oh my god, just, I don't even want to think about mayo right now. But anyway, so I took a home pregnancy test. I got an appointment. They couldn't see me that upcoming week, which was November 11th, the week of November 11th, so I made it for the following Monday. Unfortunately, I had the flu that Monday, so I canceled it. I said, listen, I don't know if I should cancel this or if I should even come in. I'm extremely sick. And she was like, well, I can't even hear you. Your voice is gone, and I can tell you are extremely sick. I mean, it's up to you, but because we do have a lot of pregnant women coming in, we don't really want to spread anything to them. And I was like, I completely understand. Can we see if we have another appointment? Can we do it for next week to make sure that I'm over this? She was like, yeah, no problem. So I made the appointment. She said 11:45, okay? I said, perfect, fine. I'll be there. So the next week I go, and I get there nice and early. I get there about 15 minutes early, just because I like to be there just in case they can take me any earlier, and then I can get up and get leaving, because my doctor is not close to me, but it's not too far. It's about 30 minutes away, and I mean, I'd rather be there than come back and see my son. I already had somebody watching my son, told them I have an appointment, didn't tell them what for. I just said, oh, it was just an annual appointment, gotta make sure that I'm healthy. So I get to the doctor's appointment, 30 minutes, mind you. It's 30 minutes away from me, so I'm there 45 minutes. Okay, I get there, I check in. They say, you don't have an appointment with us today. You had it last week. I said, yes, I know, but I spoke with a woman. I know it was the right doctor's office. I know. I 100% checked, and I was like, I spoke with a woman. It was Monday that she was working. This is the time that I called. I have the call. I called. I changed the appointment because I could not get in because I was sick. I still am sick, but I'm not as sick, and I know I'm not contagious. And she was like, oh, well, I'm sorry, but we can't get you in. She was like, we can get you in at 3. I'm there at 11:45. I'm not sitting around or leaving to come back at 3 when I have to go to work at 4:30. I mean, no. I was like, I'm not doing this. When's the next appointment that you can get me? Can you get me in tomorrow? That's my day off. And she was like, yeah, do you want to be the first appointment? I was like, no, I don't want to be the first appointment. And at this time, I had been spotting over the weekend. So this is a Monday. They're closed during the weekend, so I couldn't call and be like, listen, I'm spotting, can you? No. So I called. Sorry. So I was spotting over the weekend, and I was like, listen, I need to get in there. What is the next appointment that you have? She's like, well, we can fit you in at 3. I was like, I'm not. So she says, okay, well, tomorrow we have the first appointment at 7. And I was like, okay, whatever. But then I sat and I was like, you know what? I'd rather have my husband be there with my son, so then that way, if there is anything wrong, I have somebody. Or if I get to hear the heartbeat because I didn't know how far along I was, at least he would be there. And there's supposed to be an ultrasound technician there at the office. But, so I thought because I'm spotting, they probably would want to do an ultrasound to make sure that I'm okay. I have seen the ultrasound machine. I have seen it in one of the offices. I have been going to this office for 2 years, so I know that there is an ultrasound machine. Let me point that out first. So anyway, sorry guys, so I make it for the next day. I make it for when my husband gets home from work so we can both go. We get there, and I was like, yeah, I came here yesterday, yada, yada, yada. They told me I didn't have an appointment, so I'm back again. I just want to make sure that I have my appointment, and it is now confirmed again. And she was like, oh, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, they told me when I showed up that after I canceled my appointment that I didn't have an appointment. Nobody made my appointment for me. And she was like, I actually took that call. I made that appointment. I don't understand why they didn't see you. And I was like, okay, something screwy is here. Okay, so that's the first red flag. This is now the third appointment that I have. I'm just, whatever. So I go and I tell the doctor, I've dealt with these doctors before. I had my first child with this practice, but now they switched over and made it into a major corporation. So before it was a very small OBGYN women's group, and now it's one of the larger hospitals in I want to say the country, because I know I've seen their name, at least in Florida and Pennsylvania and Virginia. So one of the larger hospitals in the country took it over, and I was like, this is insane. Like, what happened to the office? But whatever. So I tell her I'm spotting. She checks me. She checks my stomach. She gives me an internal. She's just like, okay, well, it seems that it's just, I don't want to be graphic, but it's just old stuff that was still in your uterus is expelling now because of your pregnancy. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And she's just like, okay, but if it gets any heavier than spotting, and if it turns bright red. You're going to want to go to the hospital. But right now, at this point, we have nothing to worry about. I was like, okay, great, wonderful. And she was just like, okay, so we'll see you in about 2 to 3 weeks. Because you are spotting, I would suggest to book us again in 3 weeks. So right now, this is around Thanksgiving. Okay? So we, first week of November, took the test. Second week, made an appointment, had to cancel it. Third week, we're in the week of Thanksgiving, and I wanted to get this done before Thanksgiving because if I wasn't pregnant, I didn't want, I mean, not if I, okay, so if I was pregnant, I didn't want to make sure that I was not drinking any wine or anything bad for the baby, okay, because at holidays, I usually drink a glass of wine or whatever. Sometimes people bring rum chata, Fireball, whatever. I'm not a really big drinker, but I mean, around the holidays, if it's like a cute little holiday sweet drink, I'll drink it. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to harm the baby, and there was nothing that I could do, to put it in harm's way. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, I figured this is over a month. I could have gotten over this. So anyway, I wanted to tell her I'm still spotting. And she was like, that's fine. Right now you're okay. We confirmed it because they make you take a urine test every time that you go to that doctor. So she was like, oh, that's fine. You're confirmed. You're pregnant. Just make sure that if it gets any heavier or if it's red, to go to a hospital or call us back and we'll see you immediately. And I was like, okay, great, wonderful, if I get through. Oh, mind you, for one of the appointments, I had to call 7 times in one day. 7. And it still didn't pick up. I called the next day at 9:30. They open at 9. I called at 9:30. Nobody picked up. And I left 3 messages. It wasn't until 12 that I actually got through. Whatever. So that's when I first started spotting. Like, oh, I remember. I was spotting on a Friday. That's what it was. Okay, I was spotting on a Friday. The weekend I kept spotting. And then by Monday it kind of like subsided for a minute. So the next week after Thanksgiving, fine, nothing happened. I wasn't spotting. I was fine. The week after, I already had my appointment booked. I booked it in the doctor's office, so there's nothing wrong there. So I show up and I tell her, listen, I started spotting again. And she's just like, okay, we're going to give you an exam. We're going to give you an internal. I was like, okay, that's fine. So this is now the first week of December. She wanted to get me into an ultrasound. She said, okay, we'll get you into an ultrasound. She wanted that last time. But they hadn't called me back, so I had it booked for December 11th, because they call you back. At this hospital, this group, they book it for you. You can't call and book it. They go through the actual hospital that they're associated with. They book it for you. Which I find that also weird. Why can't you just give me the order so that I can go to a ultrasound technician near me? So I had to wait 2 weeks to get into this. I already had the blood work done. After the confirmation of the pregnancy, I had the blood work done. She was like, okay, great. Blood work looks fine. Numbers are perfect. Nothing's wrong. No diseases. Perfect. Okay, great. So I figured if I'm still spotting, I'm just spotting. So I stop again with the spotting the next week that I have the appointment for the ultrasound. I start to spot that day. I get to the appointment. I'm like, hey, listen, she ordered an early ultrasound. I mean, they already sent over the order, so they know what's going on. I like to make sure that they know, because sometimes it doesn't get transcribed between writing. I was like, listen, I have been spotting. That's why she wanted to do this so early, because it was at before 11 weeks. But at that point, I was almost 11 weeks. So I was just like, yeah, I've been spotting. She wanted to make sure that I am okay. She wanted to make sure that the fetus is growing. She gave me an internal. She says everything looks fine. Everything from the outside is fine. Once again, I know that they have an ultrasound machine at the doctor's office, but they sent me over to this hospital that they are associated with. Okay, that's fine. I go over. They asked me first if I wanted to do like genetic counseling, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, I can see that way if I know if I need genetic testing to see if my baby's going to have high blood pressure or a chance of cancer or a chance of DB syndrome, which I know one of my cousins has, and then she wanted to see if we have anything in the history of hemophilia, and I was like, actually we do. My cousin has it on my mother's side, but nobody else that we know has it. And when I first had my son, I mean, there was no signs of it. And she was like, okay, well, sometimes that it can affect you later, blah, 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 blah. She started giving me genetic counseling. It took about an hour. I was there by myself with my son because I had nobody to watch him. So I have a 15-month-old with me. Okay? I just figured this was going to be a routine procedure. I was going to talk to the counselor, and then I was going to get an ultrasound and get a picture, and then we were going to announce the pregnancy. Sorry, guys. We were going to announce the pregnancy during Christmas, because this was about 2 weeks before Christmas. So I figured we'd have a nice surprise for everyone. I'm sorry. So we get to the ultrasound. Mind you, I've already had an hour of sitting in an office talking to a counselor about this baby. And, so we get to the ultrasound. The technician comes in, she keeps talking, and she's just like, oh, well, we're going to do on the stomach an abdominal ultrasound, or external, not abdominal, I'm sorry, an external uterine ultrasound. And I mean, I was about 10 weeks there. I think 10 weeks and a few days. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. And she started to, you know, if you ever had an ultrasound, you know, squirt the gel, check on the tummy. So she was looking and she was looking. She was like, huh. Once you hear, huh, you know there's nothing good that comes from that. Sometimes it's okay, but you know in their tone there is something wrong. So she checked it, and she was like, I think I'm going to have to do an internal. Are you sure about the dates? I was like, I'm pretty sure I could be a day or two off. I haven't been really keeping track. And she was like, okay, so we're not going to worry too much. So we're going to give you an internal. She gave me an internal, and she stops. She does her clicks. She takes her pictures of where it's supposed to be. She stops. She says, I was like, do you see anything in there? And she was just like, I'm going to have to get the doctor to read these. I was like, are you new? Are you an intern? Which I know, if it's bad news, the technician, from what I'm understanding, they cannot deliver a medical diagnosis of bad news. You have to actually grab a doctor. So that's what I'm understanding. I'm going to say this right now, guys. I'm not a doctor. I don't know a lot about the medical profession. I took several years of anatomy. That's about it. Have I watched every single episode of every single season of Grey's Anatomy? Yes. Do I think that it qualifies me to be a doctor? No. In my mind, yes, but no. So, I mean, from what I understand, you have to get a doctor to deliver the medical terms and the diagnosis. So she gets the doctor. The doctor comes in after looking at the scans. He says, "Is there anybody with you?" I point at my son. I'm like, "Just my son." You know, when they ask you, "Do you have anybody here?" you're going to get bad news. Okay? You're going to get bad news. They want you to be with somebody so that if you need a shoulder to cry on, you have somebody. Because they're not going to be the shoulder to cry on. No. And I know, like, it's not professional for them to be, but, I mean, he comes in, he says, "Do you have anybody with you?" I was like, "No, just my son. Just here." And I had already told them about spotting. I was currently spotting, and they were like, "Okay, that's fine." He said, "Are you sure about the date?" I was like, I might be a day or two off." And he's just like, "Well, that wouldn't change by weeks. I'm sorry to tell you this, but we can't find a heartbeat. And at this far along in the pregnancy, we expect to see a heartbeat and formation." They didn't really tell me anything else. They just said, "There's no heartbeat. So from here, we expect a miscarriage. We expect it in the next few days. And here's what you should be looking for. If you should expect the bleeding to get worse. The bleeding is going to get heavy, heavy, heavy worse. If you are bleeding down your legs, go to the hospital. If you are doubled over in pain, go to the hospital. If you reek," he said, well, I mean, he didn't say reek, but if you have a foul smell coming from you, which that grossed me out, go to the hospital. Okay. I was like, "So what are you telling me? Like, my baby has no heartbeat, I'm going to miscarriage, or there's a chance?" Here's what he exactly said. "There's a chance of a miscarriage." He didn't say there's definitely a miscarriage, because I know sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes if you are off, which I know I wasn't. I was maybe a day or two off, like I keep saying. I mean, but, so those were his answers. Go to the hospital. And I was like, okay. Like, and he was like, "Sorry." Took my hand, and I was like, okay, so I'm still trying to process. I was like, "So what happened?" Like, was I even pregnant? Because they kept asking me if my days were correct. They kept asking me if I've ever missed a period. And I was like, "No, I've been regular." No. And I kind of sat there and I was like, I'm going to lose my baby. My baby has no heartbeat. I'm sorry. So, I'm sorry. I really thought I could talk about this without crying. So I get in the car, I just kind of break down. I feel so bad for my son. He's in his car seat, he's kind of asking, like, he's not really asking, he's like, Mama, Mama, Mama. I'm like, I'm sorry, baby, Mommy's just sad right now. And I feel so bad because I can't explain it to him. And he started learning the word baby. And it, from me and Joe, my husband's name is Joe, and from me and Joe talking about it so much, he knows, he points to my belly and he says, baby. And it just hurts so much. So, sorry guys, this isn't the end of the story. It's a lot. Sorry, this is going to be a really long video. So, I get home. I tell my husband what's going on. I tell him it's no good news. The baby has no heartbeat. I'm gonna have a miscarriage. We're not gonna have a baby. I'm sorry. So that night, I wanted to go to bed. And I tuck my son into bed every single night. I read him a story every single night. I brush his teeth every single night. I feed him dinner every single night. I am the mom that does everything. Okay, so this night I was like, Joe, I'm sorry. You're gonna need to take care of Mason. You're gonna need to feed him. You're gonna need to change him. He doesn't need a bath tonight. He already had one this morning. So I was like, sorry, you're just gonna need to take care of him. I don't want to eat. I just want to go to bed. So I went to bed, and I think I was crying for 3 hours. 3 hours straight. And he comes in with my son, and they just hold me. Mason wants to just cuddle and snuggle, and Joe just holds me. And I think it was a good 30 minutes. He was like, you need to eat. We have food downstairs. I already made dinner. Just please eat. So, I ate. I went to bed. I was like, this was my day off, so the next day I had to go to work. I texted everyone I work with. I was like, listen, there was 2 people from work who already knew what was going on. They knew that I had miscarried. And they were like, listen, I texted them. I was like, listen, I really need off. Can somebody please take over for me? Which I've done that for, I cover everybody. Anybody who can and needs to be covered, I got them. So I was like, listen, can somebody cover me? I work with about 10 people. 10. 4 people are on the schedule. Okay, that's fine. But I work with 10 people. 1 person, which I know 3 of them had school. That's fine. 1 person who had an exam, her final exam, was like, Grace, I could cover you. Like, just as long as I can leave by 12, I was like, listen, I don't want to do that to you. I don't want you to be worried about working and then you have to go take a final. Like, I want you to be clear. I was like, but there's how many other people that could work? Whatever. Nobody works. I get snide comments the next day when I show up to work. And one of them was like, they were talking to each other. They were like, well, she doesn't look sick. Says the person who takes off because it's too much for them to work like an adult. Whatever. So she comes up to me during the day. She was like, what's the matter with you? I was like, I don't want to talk to it. I don't want to talk about it. I definitely don't want to talk to you about anyway. So, I worked the weekend. Saturday I was fine. I was still bleeding a little bit, not too much. I taught. taught on Saturday. Sunday, I wake up about 45 minutes earlier than I would. Or no, 45 minutes before I had to leave, which was fine. That's like 15 minutes before I would. I was kind of like, I was in pain. I felt cramps. I was like, all right, this hurts. Like, what's going on? But I wasn't doubled over in pain. I got to work, started working, started cutting some bagels. 10 minutes into my shift, I am stopping cutting bagels, and I'm like trying really hard to stand straight. I am in so much pain. So much pain. So much so that I couldn't even sit up straight. I was in the fetal position on the floor. I don't, oh my God. I have never, the only time that I've ever felt that much pain was, I don't even remember if, I feel like it was one step below labor pains. It was one step below giving birth. I have never felt that much pain in my entire life. I was like, there's something wrong. I need to go to the hospital. I need to go to the hospital. I call my husband. I call him 3 times. He doesn't pick up. I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I need to call my mom. I called my mom, which they're kind of close to the hospital I was going to go to. I called my mom and Jimmy. I was like, Mom, I'm going to the hospital. I need someone there. And she was like, okay, we'll be there. One of my coworkers who actually knows what's going on with me, she drives me and she's just like, it's okay, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe. I'm like trying, I am gasping for breath. I am gasping at this point. I am in so much pain. I get to the hospital. I am like screaming at the receptionist. So shout out to the receptionists out there who have to deal with people in pain getting to a emergency room. I am so sorry if you're watching my video right now. But I'm like screaming. I'm like, I'm having a miscarriage. I'm having a miscarriage. Get me in. I am in so much pain. I'm in pain. I'm in pain. I'm in pain. I couldn't even give out like my name. I just kind of like threw my license at her. I was like, all my information is right there. Take it. Oh my God. I have never been in so much pain in my entire life. It was between like, I was crying between pain from my contractions, or like my miscarriage, because that's actually what it was. It felt like contractions. I was crying from that, and I was crying from the fact that I know right now I'm losing my baby. My baby is gone. I'm losing my baby. So we get there, doctor checks us out, gives me medicine. I'm there, they check me out again, they get me an ultrasound. At this point, I'm like, there's nothing I could do. I turned to the ultrasound technician because they didn't tell me anything during my ultrasound. They didn't tell me anything. Okay? Like, something felt off about that appointment. Okay? Something felt very off. But, like, I feel like I had no information to arm myself with, to prepare myself for what was going on. But anyway, I mean, I turned to the ultrasound technician. I was just like, so there was something there. Like, I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm like, so there was something there. Like, I had a baby. And she was just like, yes, you had one. And I was like, well, can you tell me, like, how big was it? Like, she's like, they didn't tell you how far along you were? They didn't tell you anything? I was like, no. Like, they just kind of, like, turned to me and told me, I'm going to have a miscarriage. Have a great day. And I was like, she was like, I'm sorry, I wish I could give you measurements, but right now, it's all just broken down tissue, and it's actually stuck from where your uterus opening is, And that's why you're in so much pain, because it's not coming out. And I was like, oh my God. So you're telling me my pregnancy is stuck. And I think that's, it's kind of a horrifying image. Is like, it's not coming out. It's staying in there. And so, I'm sorry guys, this is really gross of me. So anyway, they're just like, the doctor comes and he's just like, listen, I'm gonna let you go. If you can pass it, I'd rather you pass it at home and not in a hospital. And I was like, okay, I understand that. Like, so he prescribed me some pain medicine just so when everything goes, like, I won't be in so much pain. So I go home. It took about, I want to say, 3 days for the larger tissues to expel from my body. I had to make an appointment with my doctor for the day after the 3 days. Well, I mean, they told me wait 2 days. I waited 3 because I couldn't get in to see a doctor. The one doctor that I went to, she didn't really know what to handle with. She didn't know how to handle a miscarriage. It was like she never handled a miscarriage herself. So she was just like, listen, I'm going to examine you. I'm going to see what's in there. She was like, I see part of the pregnancy sticking out. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I see it. So she calls, she consults a doctor. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what is going on? So she's just like, okay, I'm going to take out what I can see. And then you're going to have to come back tomorrow. Great. So I come back the next day. She told me I was probably going to get a DNC. If you don't know what DNC is, it's basically where they scrape the lining of your uterus. And I don't know what else happens because I didn't actually end up getting one. So she told me to come back the next day. The doctor, I thought I was getting a DNC. That's what I thought I was doing. The doctor comes in. He sits down. He's just like, okay. So here are the 3 most common questions. How did this happen? Why did this happen? What can I do to prevent it? He gives yada, 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 yada. Okay. He's just like, any questions? I was like, yeah. How do I know if it passed? He was like, oh, you're that girl. I was like, shouldn't you know who you're going to talk to before you actually talk to them? He was like, oh, well, the bleeding should stop in a few days. How do I know if it's passed? He's just like, well, if the pain comes back or if you have a foul smell coming from you, come back. Okay, that's not really answering my question. So anyway, I go home. He said the bleeding would stop in a few days. 4 weeks later, which brings us to last week, a little bit before this week. 4 weeks later, I am still bleeding. Bleeding enough to fill up pads of blood. I'm still bleeding. Today is my first day that I am not bleeding. So, anyway, I go in on Tuesday. I said, listen, this is the first doctor that I dealt with, too. This is the first doctor that I've dealt with. This is someone who, like, took care of my son, my C-section after I had my son. This is my doctor. She was like, 4 weeks? Yeah, there's something not right there. Like, okay, we're going to order you an ultrasound. We're going to get you a blood test to make sure that all the hormones are gone. You didn't have an ectopic pregnancy that nobody detected. And we're going to make sure that everything is out. Because 4 weeks, that's 2.5 weeks longer than we would have expected you to bleed. I was like, okay, great. So, that's fine. I tell her, and she's just like, okay, well, after you get everything done, you're gonna come back in, we're gonna talk about this. And I was like, okay, great. So today, this is today. Today I got the ultrasound done, and I got my blood work done. And so I got to the ultrasound office. Super sweet ultrasound technician. Shout out to, oh God, what was it called? Health Village Imaging. If you're in New Jersey, go to Health Village Imaging. They are super awesome, and they are super sweet. So the woman that helped me, she checked everything, and she was just like, okay, I'm going to make sure that everything's good. She checked my ovaries, she checked my internal, she checked through the skin. She said, the uterus looks a little thick, but everything is out. It doesn't look gunky in there. It looks like everything is fine. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm finally done. And then after that, I went right on over. I got my blood work done, and we don't know what the results are going to be until a few days. But I just want to say, like, to anybody who's having a miscarriage or has had a miscarriage, you know that all of this stuff that you have to do, like the ultrasound and the blood work and the pregnancy tests, it's not fun, because it's just kind of a reminder. Sorry, guys. It's just kind of a reminder that we're going to make sure you're not pregnant. We're going to make sure that everything is gone. And it's kind of like a downer, because you hope that the next ultrasound is to see the baby, and that you see a heartbeat, and that you see it growing. And you hope that the blood tests are to make sure your levels are okay, to make sure you're not in gestational diabetes. Sorry, gestational diabetes. So, I mean, it's just like, this is the opposite of how you want to feel when you see an ultrasound. So anyway, just thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it to the end, thank you. And if you're going through this, reach out to me. Let's talk together, okay? Because I don't want you to feel like you're going through this alone. So thank you guys. Don't worry. Next time will be a happier update, hopefully. Alright. So, thank you. Bye.